guys. Welcome to today's meeting.
Yes.
My name is Sean North, local business owner, family guy, do all kinds of things here, but today I'm here as part of the Hocking Hills Lodging Owners Association. We have about 150 members,
Great.
but really represent over 1,000 lodging owners.
Mm-hmm.
So our statement, or welcome statement, or purpose is as follows: to serve as a unified voice to promote cohesion between members, government, local businesses, and residents to support and strengthen our local lodging community. Create a favorable climate that promotes the overall health and sustainability of the lodging and tourism industry within the Hocking Hills region. First, I want to say thank you to hockinghills.com and Finn for helping us get this Facebook Live stream going, because some of us aren't nearly that smart, including me, so thank you for the smart people. So we're here today for some Q&A regarding the developing of some of the regulations that are coming down the line for lodging owners, short-term rentals, etc. So just as, thank you guys for coming here.
Yes.
Appreciate you taking the time. I know you guys have been in a lot of meetings here recently, and you know, I always say this whenever I get involved in stuff and extra things happen, I say, well, I signed up for it.
Oh,
And you guys definitely signed up for it, and we appreciate you. And hopefully our members and get a lot out of today's Q&A. So just to start off, can we start with the panelists introducing yourself and what your position, title, or responsibilities within the county in the short-term rental industry? You start and work around the table here.
I'm Scott Schrader, Assistant Regional Planner.
Josh Gibbons, Hocking County Lodging Tax Administrator. I'm responsible for collecting and administering lodging tax.
Audie, Wykle, Director of Regional Planning. Of course, we're looking at potential new land use regulation to add to some of the things that are already in place, but things that have been presented to us as problematic over a variety of different things that we've seen over the last 20 or 30 years probably. We're kind of the regulatory authority for those things in place now, enforcing subdivision regulations, floodplain regulations, and then anything else potentially that might come down the pike. So.
Thank you, Audie.
Michael Linton, Hocking County Commissioner, as of 16 months ago. Private sector my whole career. This is new for me. And I also serve, starting this year, I serve on the Zoning Commission.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We put out some questions from our members, or options or opportunities to ask questions from our members, and there was a pretty good response. We had 63 or so questions. As a HHLOA, Hocking Hills Lodging Owners Association board, we decided on a few of these questions, and we just kind of wanted to go through them with you. These are not particular our questions, particularly from us. We're just the messenger in these, but they were pretty good questions, and we thought that they would be informative for our members and just the general public, I guess.
Thank you for calling that down from 63 to 11.
Yeah. If you guys go through them really quick, we may get through all 62.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, and I don't know where you want me to start, but I think they're all real good questions, and I'm glad to have the questions posed here to us, because I think that'll help a lot of people understand.
Yeah, I'll guide us through those questions. We have 9 of them. Is that right? 10 of them. 10 questions on our list here. So before we start with the questions, though, kind of give us a quick history of how this recent regulatory proposals have come to the table for Hocking County.
Sure. Well, in the spring of 2023, and this discussion has been going on for some time, we decided as regional planning and as county commissioners to explore the possibilities of additional land use regulations. It's been a learning experience for all of us. My first and foremost request, and has been for some years, is that we get guidance from a professional consulting company that specializes in land use regulations. Reason being for that, we've had several attempts over the years by different well-meaning groups of citizens who tried to put some things together. Typically, most of those have been on a township by township basis. I was involved in a little bit on some of those. All of those for different, maybe similar reasons, but different reasons as well. Didn't get past the very first stage of writing regulations, because it seems like once all those were presented to the township trustees, they decided to not go forward for one reason or another. So, there's no denying Hocking County has seen growth. We've seen growth, tremendous growth in the tourism industry, and we're happy for it. And I won't speak for Wykle here, Commissioner Linton, because he can speak to that, but because of tourism and because of the sales tax directly coming from tourism, it's been a good shot in the arm. As we all know, industry has left our area, as it has most areas. This is the main viable industry that we have now. At the same time, we need to protect the area, make sure that it doesn't turn into something that those of us who have lived here all our lives and for generations, that it doesn't turn into something other than what people now, I believe, are coming to Hocking County to see. And that's a rural area with our parks and our caves and our our beautiful vistas and just a rural landscape, so to speak. So in 2023, in the spring of that year, commissioners presented to me at that time the interest to move forward with the interest of trying to gain funding, monies through either grants or whatever area is available, to hire consultants and move forward with this. There in 2023, I think in either March or April, there was a zoning board, a zoning commission, I should say, per ORC that was appointed. ORC requires that no more than five folks be appointed to that board with 2 alternates. That began our discussion on additional land use tools that may be available to us. And of course, one of those tools is foremost in everybody's mind and has been talked about for many years and is unpopular to many people, is the zoning tool. Part of our learning process through the consultant, and I'll get into a little bit more of that here shortly, is to know that zoning is just one of many tools, that we have other tools available to us, similar to the ones that are already in place that I've already mentioned: subdivision regulations, floodplain regulations, driveway roadside pipe regulations, different things that are in place, that the health department's individual regulations as to development of water wells, development of sewage treatment systems, and plumbing inspections. We started early on with the panel. I served as chair, but I can't be a voting member because I live in the city of Logan. But we started as a panel with the thought, most highest importance to me and the rest of the panel as well, was that we include a very open dialogue to people in Hocking County. I think that was part of the concerns with some previous attempts at some zoning ordinance or some other land use ordinance, was the fact that there was a group meeting. It wasn't really, I'm not gonna say it wasn't open to the public, but it wasn't well advertised. And again, it was a group of well-meaning individuals, but none of those individuals were trained in planning. We had, I'm thinking of a couple different of the groups that existed in. There's a nice cross-section of different interests, all the way from doctors, attorneys, and then just, you know, just the average Hocking County resident that makes their home and works here. But we thought of utmost importance that we be open and completely available. And so one of the first things that we did was decide to start meeting on a set date of the month, and we made that the last Thursday of the month. Every one of those meetings have been open to the public. Every one of those meetings have been on Facebook Live through the Commissioner's website, and now available through our website and a couple other websites. So we began with that. One of our first tasks was to talk about where to find funding and what to do to write RFQs, requests for qualifications, to find a consultant that we thought would best fit Hocking County. One of the very first things we did, the group had some study sessions. We came up with a zoning survey that we wanted to get out and share with the public, just to get a sense of what everyone was feeling and thinking.
How was that feedback? How much feedback did you really get?
We got, I don't know for sure how many surveys were handed out. We got a feedback of 400 plus. When we brought our consultant in, he was pleased with that number.
I imagine so.
I was pleased with it. I mean, it's hard to get the word out. We were hoping through social media. Back in 2007, I was involved in updating the county's comprehensive plan. And it was before social media was savvy or friendly, maybe, or at least maybe to us, it wasn't so much. We tried everything. We did live radio shows. We did advertised in the local newspaper. We even went as far as sending out flyers, handing out flyers to the schools that would be handed out to the children to bring home and give to the parents. Unfortunately, through that whole process, we were lucky in our meetings to have maybe a dozen people show up. So we've recognized from early, and we even did phone polling. We got a grant. We did phone polling through Ohio University, through the Woodovich Center. That was a little different process, but the prerequisite to any sort of future planning was an update of that comprehensive plan. Our last comprehensive plan previous to that was 1968. So it was in dire need of being updated. We got that finished in 2007, and then 2022 maybe, or 2022, we had completed an update of that comprehensive plan. We knew at that point that we were going to move into looking at some things here. Anyway, in the meantime, we found some monies. We got some small grants. We didn't get some of the ones we went after. Commissioners graciously came up with the rest of the monies needed for us to move forward. So then we went through the process of interviewing potential candidates as consultants. we made very specific and of high importance in our RFQs for the public's involvement in any of the writing of anything, in any of the decision making of anything. The consultant that we hired had worked in Ohio, had worked in a county like size of Hocking's,
Is this American Structure Point?
American Structure Point.
We've also worked with the city. Okay.
They have worked with the city of Logan, but they're a pretty big company. The folks we're working with is not the same folks with the city of Logan, but yeah. I had worked with the city of Logan through their Appalachian funding and their downtown revitalization, but that was kind of a different section.
That's more from like an architectural.
That was,
standpoint.
right. And this was more their planning area of the company. The gentleman that I have been working with, he was the principal with the Noble County was the county that he worked in. And while Noble County is different from Hocking in the tourism side of it, population size, very similar to Hocking. They found it, I think, they and the rest of the consultants that we interviewed found it different, that we were involving the public so much in the decision making. So it was a little different for them and the others that we interviewed. We even involved the public in the interview process. They said none of the consultants had ever seen that done before. But that just shows you the importance that I have had all along, and the zoning commission has had all along, and the commissioners have had all along, that this not be something done in private, not something done where there's decisions being made without any input, as to how folks will be affected. So, in mid to end of 2023, we hired a consultant. Again, that was American Structure Point. We started moving forward. They helped us get our survey further disseminated. They had some avenues through their company that gained that. And again, we had about 400 respondents to that. Interestingly enough, HHTA, and I hope I'm giving these numbers right. And Karen, if you're watching, throw a book at the screen or something if I'm wrong, but HHTA sent out a questionnaire, and they're going through a similar process and getting a feel for the public's sentiment on new regulation or how to protect Hocking County as we have it. As I understand, they sent 17,000 plus surveys, which were to be all of the residences in Hocking County, to all the households. So they did a mailing at 17,000 plus. They received 700 plus respondents. So I felt good in knowing that ours was half or a little better than half of theirs. But I felt better about the number we got out, even though the consultant said that's a nice number of responses. So from there, we have moved forward. We have held the stakeholders meetings. Stakeholders meetings, and help me here, fellas, if you can, but those involved first responders, that involved township trustees representation, involved just the farming community. It involved developers and attorneys. Who am I forgetting here? The lodging owners. Yeah, lodging owners was the last stakeholders meeting we had. That was held at the theater. All of those meetings were very, very well attended. We were very pleased with the turnout there. Since then we began the general public sessions, and we've met at the Nazarene complex. We've met at Laurelville, the Laurelville Church of God. I think we've met a total of 6 of those throughout various areas of the county, trying to cover the county as a whole. And those, we're inviting general public folks to come in, give us their opinions. Through the stakeholders meetings and those general public meetings, we were there only not to present anything, other than the fact to say to you, as stakeholders or as the general public, what's your concerns? You know, we're looking at these things. What concerns do you have? What things do you have that concern you the most? And because we didn't want to come in with any preconceived notions that this was a problem or that this item was a problem or anything. We wanted to hear from the people, what their.
You said that those meetings were well attended. Can you give me some ideas of numbers of people that were actually showing up?
Well, help me with this, guys. I know.
First meeting at the Nazarene was 60, 62 or 3.
And pretty much throughout the rest of them, we had in that, about that time.
Except for
Except for Murray City. Yeah,
City was less.
yeah.
Need to speed it up, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I get a little winded, yeah.
And what about the lodging owners? How many showed up to that one?
That was our best attended one.
Was it?
That was held at the Logan Theater on the 3rd floor. I think there were 70 plus.
70 plus, yeah.
It's excellent.
Yeah. So we were very, very pleased with that. But anyway, that kind of brings us to where we're at today. We are just in the very beginnings. We've identified things that we think would be tools that would help in those concerns. And I'll end it with those concerns expressed to us. And I'll end that part of it by saying our survey, the meetings with the stakeholders, the meetings with the general public, as well as the HHTA's survey, it all showed mid-90s or higher when it came down to the question, does something need to be changed? Does something need to be done? And so we had 95+% of folks that said, I don't know what we need, but there needs to be some additional regulation put in place.
What's the population of Hocking County?
28,000.
28,000. We had 700 responses out of 28,000.
You had 700 responses out of 17,000 households.
17,000 households.
Yeah, they didn't send it to every person as a resident, but to the households. And that's about 17,000, plus or minus.
So percentage-wise, according to the consultants, was that a good percentage of
They felt it was good. Yeah, I don't understand. I know people found fault with our phone survey, and I don't remember the numbers with that. Yeah, there's a mathematical component in when you do something that's totally that's meant to be, and you hope for it to be totally open and across the board. And
Yeah, I mean, we hope that those ones who responded, also have a vested interest.
Yeah.
Not just as a resident, but
Right.
business owners. There's a nice mix of those responses.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, me as a business owner, and my wife and I own 3 or 4 different businesses. So I don't even think we took the time to do it, unfortunately. I'm admitting that right now.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It's because we get things done and we're doing stuff. And
Sure.
so we've got to tread that, in my opinion, we've got to tread that a little lightly whenever sometimes you hear the rusty wheel, right?
Oh,
And
yeah,
those aren't necessarily what's
definitely.
best for the overall.
most definitely.
And then
On the
that's
good
why I have
side.
consultants too.
On the good side and the bad side, yeah, and
Yep.
it is why we have consultants, because they know those things better than we do. As far as the survey that HHTA sent out, I know it came to my house, but it almost got overlooked, and my wife said, "What's this?" And I took a glance at it, and I said, "Well, I think it's just some advertisement," and then looked again and realized it. So I know several people that I've encountered that said, "We didn't get it." Maybe they did or maybe they didn't.
Which is fine. I mean, some
It's tough.
information's better than none.
It's tough, yeah.
That's for sure. But to have that 95% that something needed to be changed is, I think that when those people
Yeah.
agree to that, that's some good information.
Yeah.
If any tax increases or changes are currently proposed, are there? right now?
Not by this group, no, not by what we're doing, no. The only thing that could come in place would be some permitting fee. That would be just a typical, small amount of fee. I mean,
Okay.
our floodplain permit fees are $50, for an example. I mean, we're talking about something in those areas. Now, the only thing that may come in place that would substantially be greater than that is for any new development that comes in, based on what the development is, what the impact of the development is. We're exploring the idea of impact fees. So if you're going to come in and you're going to impact infrastructure, for an example, if you're going to impact water and sewer, you're going to impact the roadway system in any great amount, there'll be some impact fee associated with that. How that's going to work, I don't even know that they began that portion of it yet.
Okay. Well, let's get started with our official questions, the
Sure.
10 questions that were presented by our members.
Mhm.
Question 1, can you explain why the county is choosing to pursue new short-term rentals regulations at this time, particularly given the low level of public participation in the recent survey and the fact that the existing regulations are not currently being enforced? Would it not be more effective to focus on enforcing the rules already in place before introducing new ones?
Well, first of all, let me answer the first part of that question. This isn't just for short-term rentals. That's not the only ordinance that we're talking about here. We're talking about any new development that invites the public in. Anything new. This is not a short-term rental targeted set of regulations. There are several impacts that we hear all the time, complaints about additional traffic. We hear all the times about the runs that are made by first responders to the caves areas. And not all those people that, we've got a lot of day trippers that come to Hocking County. So it's not short-term rentals alone that bring that additional traffic. So we're looking at things that are impacting our county in all ways and not just short-term rentals. Now, to answer your question, what regulations are you saying that are not enforced? Do you have any idea what
These
to
are
talk?
questions by our members.
Yeah, I know.
As
I'm
personal
curious.
I believe nuisance abatement was one that someone sent in. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Nuisance abatement was one of them.
Nuisance abatement.
Well, okay, you may be talking about some regulations that are in place, and that's part of this process that our consultant is doing. He's looking to see what's already in place. I know that the township trustees have some authority in some areas that they're not well aware of, but we're looking at anything that's in place already that could be enforced. Typically what happens with the enforcement of regulations, either the person responsible for the enforcement doesn't know about it, or there's not an agency there to do the enforcement. And that's one of the things that we've talked about with these regulations. Without enforcement, you've just wasted your time. So I'm not sure. Our consultant is looking through those things. I know some things have been nuisance abatement. I don't know what's in place there, other than what I've heard about unlicensed vehicles. The township trustees have some control over, as I understand. But again, our consultant is looking at that because we don't want to recreate the wheel. What we're hoping comes out of this is there'll be some agency answerable to what we're going to put in place, hopefully, or what's already in place, and figure out what needs to be done to make sure that everything's enforced.
Question 2, are you proposing that restrictions apply equally to all transient lodging businesses, cabins, B&Bs, campgrounds, hotels, or only short-term rentals, which we would call Airbnbs, a lot of people call?
No.
And will it be per property or per unit?
Well, it depends on what the regulation is as far as whether it be per property or per unit. I can tell you though, is it will cover all of these and more. Campgrounds where you have primitive camping versus pulled in campers, those fall under the state of Ohio. So I'm not sure where the law sits as far as for an example, when it comes to bed tax. But I know that these things will definitely apply to all of these uses, not just one, not just short-term rentals. It'll apply to all these uses. And again, our goal is any new land use, we're not restricting land use in any way, but we're saying anything that you're going to create, that you invite the public in, or you invite people to come in and work for you in some business, we want some things in place that that helps our county grow responsibly in a way that supports all of our infrastructure. And that's not just water, sewer, and highways, that's our first responders as well.
Yeah, a lot of that, I mean,
Yeah,
also falls back on the city's infrastructure as well.
it does, and most of it certainly does, yeah.
Because
As you were well
yeah, I mean,
aware of.
the cabin owners, lodges and cabins, they're on their own septic.
They're on
for
their own,
example. You gotta
right.
get into the city, and we've got a lot of
Yeah,
infrastructure.
exactly, yeah.
All right, question 3. Can you explain if short-term rentals are being singled out for permits, tax increases, insurance, and compliance requirements, while long-term rentals and other businesses with similar risk are not being held to the same standards? Give me examples, and also give me examples of other industries that require permits to operate.
Well, many of the things that are deemed commercial, anytime you have some new commercial business that's established, those things as far as the structure goes, fall under the state of Ohio, as short-term rentals do now, to a different set of regulations. We're not proposing anything, the short-term rentals aren't being singled out. Anything that's a new use, that's gonna create another driveway in off of a public road. Even starting there, we have driveway pipe and requirements on clear sight distances. Those things are gonna be looked at, but then once you get inside that development, whether it's a campground, whether it's an Airbnb, whether it's a short-term rental, whether it's a development, these glamping, we've heard everything in phone calls we field every day about proposed new things that are either directly a result of tourism or a fringe resulting from tourism. Everything that the public's invited in to use. One of the controversies that we've heard about is the fuel station, the new gas station that's on 664 South. We are looking to apply permits only from the standpoint that we have that chance that they register with us, that we look at what they're doing, that they're meeting minimums to provide safety and ensure orderly growth in the county. We would have no authority on any tax increases. I'm not sure where that's coming from. There's been a real big conversation, and we've had that in all of our meetings about about how short-term rentals and residential properties, and we've seen pricing on some properties that have been sold for short-term rental use that may meet an unrealistic value from an income standpoint versus what a person living in a family residence would pay for just to live in. But those aren't anything that's part of what we're doing. We're not involved in any of that. With this group, there were just legislation introduced yesterday, House Bill 335 is looking at fundamentally changing the way real estate taxes work. But again, that's not part of anything that we're proposing.
What about those other industries that require permits to operate?
Everything will require permits. Anything that comes in, whether you're opening a little souvenir shop, if you're opening a gas station, if you're opening a little company to make souvenirs, and a lot of those things may come here because of tourism, because of the increase of people that drive to the caves, rather it be a convenience mart, whatever. All those will be subject to the things that we're proposing.
I mean, that could significantly affect the inflow of funds for the county as well. I mean,
Yeah.
that's helping the cause, right? That's the idea. How do
Well,
we get all this paid for?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the permits, we've not gotten into what kind of permits. That'll kind of be up to the commissioners to set, but typically the permits aren't any way of, permits won't even come close to covering the cost of the,
Supporting that entity.
yeah, supporting that entity in any way.
I mean, that's just one facet of
Yeah.
how that's gonna work, but how specifically does the county plan to use the funds collected from the license and registration fees, and what safeguards will be put in place to prevent these fees from continually increasing over time?
Well, any adopted fees, I think typically would go into the general fund, so they would, and there's many facets of the government that's funded through the general fund, and many of that is police and fire, regular county operations. There'll be funding needed for all facets of whatever regulatory things may get adopted. And so there'll be additional personnel that need to be hired for that. But it won't be in any way a prohibitive fee, I don't think. The raising of any fees would take public hearings, and it couldn't just be arbitrarily done. It would take public hearings through the commissioners to adopt. That would require a time to announce what those proposed fees are, with time for the public to respond to it.
Josh, maybe this is a question for you too, in a sense. So, can you explain to the public where are all these funds, or the lodging tax? How's that distributed now? Where's it going?
So the entire county portion of lodging tax goes to your county's tourism center or convention center. So in this case, it's the Hocking County Tourism Association, and that's all through the Ohio Revised Code. So it's in the ORC that has to be funneled through the county and then dispersed where it's supposed to go. And then I don't actually know what the townships do with their portion, but I assume it's for road work and just their daily work and things like that.
Number 5, who will be held legally responsible for ensuring short-term rental compliance? Is it the property owner, the property manager, or the business entity? Additionally, what are the consequences for operating a short-term rental without a required permit?
Well, some of these things haven't been determined yet. Who will be held legally responsible? That'll kind of be, I think that's something that the prosecutor's office will have to help us with.
I think it's comfortable to say it's going to be the entity that operates the facility. Whether that's an individual owner or an LLC, I would think it would be the operator. I'm confident that's what the prosecutor is going to tell us.
Yeah.
So that's the first part of the question.
Yeah, well, and the consequences would be, and again, penalties. All these things haven't been written yet, but there's typically, in things like this, penalties that would, and Josh can even answer to some of this from what they're seeing with bed tax revenue. Penalties could be ordering a business closed. I don't know at this point. I don't know what those penalties will be. What I can tell you is, once they're decided on and once they're written, it'll be available to everyone to see long before any vote is taken.
Can I ask a counter question?
Sure.
Back to the group. Is there any motivation for the group to self-monitor to make sure those lodging taxes are in fact paid? Because there's still a subset of folks who do not pay their 6% lodging tax. Is there any motivation on the part of the HHLOA to impose some pressure on your peers for not, and I'm assuming those aren't members, so not pointing anybody here, but is there any motivation for you guys to assist in that?
I don't know.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Yeah, sure, sure.
I mean, I
Yeah,
think
so-
it's
I mean,
a good
how many,
question.
how many do you have that aren't paying?
I think, right now I have 24, I
Okay.
think. So an example of what he's saying is I send a list of people that I know are in HHTA once a month, and say, hey, these people aren't paying me, and then they take care of it. If that, so if you had someone, and I know who all is involved, I can say, hey, this person's not up to snuff, and I don't know what you guys would do to them, but like tourism, they get on them, and then if they don't eventually pay it, they kick them out. So,
Well, we do the same with our members. If they don't pay after
Yeah.
a period of time, but we do have an ability to
Yeah.
to assist in that.
yeah, so we could work that out if somebody wants to get a hold of me. Then,
Because
I think we can do that.
Can I make a just quick comment from the position of commissioners? We're three conservatives. We're not taxing guys, just want to say that.
Yeah.
And we are looking to, aside from what Audie has shared about best long-term interests of the county, that's priority. But in terms of what permit fees or taxes or whatever else, we just want to cover the cost of every industry that operates in the county. And speaking specifically to this one, we have some emergency services. And when you ask the question about what the permit fees be used for, I can tell you, they're going to go to apply for emergency services. They go to support the lodging program. So I just want to throw that in. This is not a tax and spend program. I'm sorry. Sorry for those two.
That's right, we definitely encourage some counter questions. And going back to that, whether it would be the property owner or the manager or the business entity, if I look at it from the city's perspective, I know that if I hire somebody to manage my rentals, I'm responsible as the owner of, so if there's something that's gone wrong with my structure or whatever it might be, the compliance is mine, not the people I hired.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's where I'm a little afraid to answer someone because it gets down to the legal thing. I know one mechanism for folks that hire a contractor to do work on their property. If that contractor doesn't pay his bills, then the lien gets placed on the property. So a lot of times it follows the property. And that's where you get into some things that's more of a legal question to answer. And I think we'll know as we move forward what we'll put in place to try to enforce those kinds of things.
All right, question 6, so what strategies are the county developing to balance continued tourism growth with protecting the quality of life for local residents, such as addressing traffic congestion, infrastructure strain, and the risk of over-tourism?
Well, and that, the answer to that is you've seen, if you watched our last meeting, you've seen quite a bit of time spent on short-term rental permits, but that's not the only permit. The other permit is going to be the development permits. And so all of these things are going to be done with guidance and thought about how anything new is going to impact the county. Any new business, there could be a time where we could see an overload on a highway, and so then that's going to require whatever it's going to require, widening of the highway, turn lanes, whatever the case may be. So those things are all of those questions as far as impact goes, and that comprehensive plan that I talked about earlier, that's what that was put in place for. That's an overall, and sometimes it's called a comprehensive and infrastructure plan. And that's what those plans are put in place for, is to tell us as things progress, the areas that we have foreseen as best suited for business development perhaps, or best suited for other things. The thing I want to reiterate is the place we're at right now, we're not proposing zoning. Zoning is probably the strictest and the farthest highest end of any regulation you could put in place, because zoning, by definition, by the ORC, specifically designates a specific property and what it can be used for. We're not proposing that.
Audie, is not the name of your commission the zoning commission?
The zoning commission is the only commission under the ORC. And when I said earlier that we were, it was a learning process for us, we thought the only place to go to for where we were was to zoning. We thought these regulations that we're proposing now had to fall under zoning. They do not.
So will you change the name of your?
There is no other commission. The commission,
ORC requires.
the ORC requires.
Doesn't mean we have to end up at zoning, it just means we have to operate under that.
And I can tell you nothing we're proposing right now because, what's been identified to us doesn't have to require zoning now. Whatever we see farther down the road, that's not to say that farther down the road, we may see the need for that. I've had some people respond to it both ways. They're disappointed some are that we're not putting in zoning. But zoning, I don't think, based on what I've seen, what I've experienced and the conversations I've had and all the meetings and the surveys that we've done, the concerns have been expressed do not need that.
Did
Strict.
the consultants guide you either way for zoning?
No, they completely,
Is it true to say that no one in those public meetings wanted zoning? Is that true? In the public meetings?
in the public meetings where we posed that direct question, would you like to have zoning? The answer was always no. But the answer was, but we do need something. So,
As the surveys indicate.
Yes.
as the surveys indicated, and also as the public meetings, because there were scribes there from Morpsey. There was another planning subgroup that the American Construction Point hired. All the meetings, notes were taken of the conversations made, and we got 10 minutes. I guess what I want to say is, it was reiterated, I think, in all the public hearings, and Wykle was at most of those, we were at most of those. They pretty much shadowed the same things we've been hearing from the survey, so.
Will the short-term rental owners who are already operating or preparing new STRs be grandfathered in or protected under the new regulations?
I would, this is something I'm not sure about yet, because, and we have had this conversation, we've had several people ask about this. I would say a lot of the things will be grandfathered in. I can't think of anything that would require us to go back unless it would be some health or safety concern. If something's,
Isn't it all health and safety concern?
it's health
At
and
the end of
safety.
the day, right? I mean, the
Well,
regulations,
For some.
Yeah,
the regulations, you gotta make sure
Not
you're
necessarily
fire,
the owner.
make sure you're,
Yeah.
it's about saving life.
But it also
yeah,
could
but
be
it's
neighbors too,
also orderly planning for the future, to where we don't paint ourselves in the corner. Someone said to us, and regardless of what your feeling is about Gatlinburg, that tourism destination, it came up probably almost in every meeting. Someone said in one of the meetings, we should find out how Gatlinburg did it. And in my opinion, we should find out how Gatlinburg did it to not do it. I mean, that's just my opinion. Not
They might have not
everyone.
done it.
We had some folks at our lodging owners that said, we love Gatlinburg. And we think we should be like Gatlinburg. And there are those that, you know, everybody has their own opinion. But I think the majority that we felt at that meeting was, hey, and one lady stood up and said, we go to Gatlinburg, it's getting so congested though anymore with traffic. She said, I liked, and she doesn't live in Hocking County, but she said, I like the reason I come to Hocking County is to see the hills and to see a slower pace and to see the caves. She said, the last thing I want to do is drive out to Old Man's Cave, and at the end of the parking lot, there's a Burger King. So she said, that's the kinds of things that I think.
Hopefully nobody's a Burger King owner here.
Yeah, well, yeah, and nothing disparaging against Burger King, it could have been McDonald's, but I think the point made was people come to Hocking County for a different reason than to see what I call trinket shop after trinket shop on every block, you know, and not to be disparaging.
Better hurry. Yeah, I can
Okay,
get through it.
we're gonna go some of these other questions. Josh, I think this question is for you on number 8. Can the county offer more streamlined tools for lodging tax reporting, like online forms and township payment options to reduce administrative burden and improve accuracy?
That is the difficulty, you know, with the townships all being their own entity. I do not collect for them, they collect obviously for themselves, but also in their own way. I can make suggestions. I have made fillable forms, and I've convinced some of them to let them email you their form and have a bill pay check sent. You know, we're cutting the mail out. That's the problem. I've mentioned some kind of online system to some before, and they didn't seem interested at all. That it's a big problem. But as far as what I can control, my county, you know, my site, I do have an online payment system. I do have fillable forms. I have everything on my site as a one-stop shop. Anything you might ever need is there. So if someone uses my online payment system, I get that and a receipt in seconds. So I don't know how more streamlined you can be.
I'll chime in here just real quickly. So
Yeah.
there is a township meeting coming up in a couple of weeks, which I will be attending. Is there any, and I don't know what the ORC says, because I'm new at this, but I'm not sure why we couldn't form a RETA, you know, Regional Income Tax Authority, and collect the tax and then remit to the townships to basically use your process and then send it out. So we will
Yeah.
investigate that.
Yeah, I think that's needed for sure.
That would be very helpful.
With today's technology, that the process seems so antiquated.
Well, and I could see that, and we've heard a lot from that. I think a certain amount of that was tied to the way the legislation was written for bed tax, but I'm not sure.
We'll check. We've got that.
That's what I'll probably investigate.
I think my forms and things are pretty good.
Yes, well,
Thank you.
Yeah.
appreciate that. We appreciate that.
For business being the one guy crew you are, you're doing a pretty good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Will regulations related to noise, access, parking, and safety be applied consistently across all properties in the county, not just short-term rentals?
Right now, absolutely everything will face the same standards. The only thing that we haven't talked about is if someone wants to build a house, a farmer sells 2 acres on market to someone or gives it to their child. That residential use has not been looked at in any way. That private residential use has not been looked at in any way. But yes, every other use will be looked at. They'll have to all meet the same standards.
I always found that interesting, that differentiation between a commercial, you know, I'm renting my room in my house, or I'm not. All of a sudden, if I rent a room to a friend, I have these regulations, but if I
Yeah.
rent it to a long-term person, I don't.
Yeah,
It kind of puts it in a way, it's like, it almost says that person who pays for the service has more rights to safety than just your regular community
Yeah.
person.
yeah,
That just
that's,
doesn't seem right to me.
yeah, and
That doesn't say.
it's an ORC.
I know it is.
Definition is
I'm just
the 30
expressing that,
days,
but it's,
yeah, greater or less, yeah.
I just call it interesting at this point.
I think you're right, I agree with it, and we just had this conversation yesterday with somebody. that how is one any different or any less important than the other? And I don't think that they are.
Number 10, our last question. Who will decide if permits are revoked? How many are granted? Additionally, how will complaints be handled and enforced carried out to ensure fairness and avoid targeting specific property types?
Well, whatever,
Questions?
yeah, I mean, obviously, whoever the agency is that will oversee the regulations, they will work through whatever procedure, which will be through the county prosecutor's office to do those enforcements.
So
As-
then is that the sheriff showing up? I mean,
It
like,
could
what does that
be.
look like?
It could be, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's an unknown.
It could be liens placed on properties, I don't know. That would be pretty radical. But we're talking about like noise regulations. Right now, the sheriff doesn't really have any teeth. We've heard how many complaints about folks complaining about
Gun range.
yeah, and another one was a gun range. But we've had folks who have called the sheriff and they can't, they can't get a response requested because there's no law that's being broken.
But again, consistently applied across all
Oh, yes.
structures.
Are there gonna be any limits on the number of permits?
No, it's, so in
How many are
a
granted?
roundabout way, are we gonna limit new short-term rentals? No, that's not.
No, the city did, so the county's not.
No, well, and the city can do it because they're zoned.
And that other part of the question, how will
I'm sure
complaints be
fairness-
handled? How will complaints be handled? That's still probably the same.
Yeah, it'd be the same thing, and ensure fairness and avoid targeting. I mean, that's gonna be up to the integrity of the agency. And which that agency, I don't see it falling under anything other than the commissioner's umbrella. So, it's gonna be something that if it's not handled adequately, then, there'll be consequences to the personnel in the agency.
All right, we got 1 minute left on this 1 hour stream, so I appreciate all of you for your time again. I think that those questions were answered pretty adequately. I hope that helped our members understand a
Hope so.
little better.
And-
I'd like to ask for some, to keep the dialogue open.
Yes.
Would you be willing to meet us again in 2 or 3
Absolutely.
weeks?
Absolutely, and I'll add to that, call our office anytime. We have an open door policy at the office, stop in anytime. That's why we're a little late getting here, we had 2 people that were not scheduled. And
We also have more public hearings before any of this is.
yes, oh yes, there'll be more public hearings before anything is enacted. Watch our, watch our monthly meeting, but yes, please, do not hesitate.
Great, thanks again.
Well done. Thank you.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, you are-